Well, lots to come here on YouTube, but first, it's JT and the WHOTASTIC panel, and we travel back to 1973 to visit William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, and John Pertwee in the 10th anniversary story, The Three Doctors from Doctor Who.
Hello, hello, and welcome to Who's Views Reviews. I want to say hello to the WHOTASTIC panel. We've got Michael, we've got Paul, and we've got Kirsty. Hello, everybody. And hello to everybody in the audience who are watching us this evening. We are here, as we know, to review proper Doctor Who. Look at that. Paul's measuring it up there.
Nice one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recreate the cover of the Radio Times. I can't manage it.
You need little steps for them, I guess.
I do.
Unbelievably, everybody, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the 10th anniversary special, which is just mind-blowing, which started actually we've got the wrong thing there.
It's not enough. You have to keep saying the five doctors is 40 years old. Now you've got to tell us that the three doctors is 50 years old.
Yeah,
well, it is.
You're about minus 47, aren't you? If you balance that out.
It does make us feel a little bit old, doesn't it? But yeah, first broadcast on BBC One, the 30th December 1972 to the 20th of January 1973. Of course, to kick off the 10th season of Doctor Who. And by God, the 10th season kicked off with a bang with this one, written by the legend that was Bob Baker and Dave Martin. And yes, there we go. The rest is history here. So do you know what, guys, and everybody in the audience, and thanks for joining us. I have to tell you, I watched this twice. Once I watched it just for this show, and then Garbage, who's in the chat, I had Garbage, he said, I'm going to watch this. So I thought, I'm going to watch it again. And I have to say, after what we've just been through, it was an actual pleasure and delight to get back to the Doctor Who I recognize.
Yeah, it's a cracker.
Yeah.
It's an absolute cracker. I love this story.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites as well. I think it's my favorite anniversary story, definitely. Which we're going to more later.
It's the only one. It's the only anniversary story where we get the complete,
the real people. You mean? Yes.
Doctors. Yeah.
Yes.
It's the only one where we get all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a delight to watch, though, isn't it? And there's something magical about the whole thing about it, because I mean, I always say this on some of the shows. Hello to Richard here, who's saying good evening to all of us. Hello. And Peter's here as well, saying hello. And Garbage is in the chat. There he is. He's saying hi. Hello. So we got, thanks to everybody watching. It's great. But I always say this must have been, for the young people or the kids or whomever the families watching at the time back then, this must have been incredible. This was the first time they'd done a multi-doctor story. Can you imagine?
What's interesting about this is a story that Terence Dix tells about fans writing in saying, why don't you do this? And they go, nah, let's not bother. You know, and then it's such a brilliant idea. It's such a fantastically lovely idea. Have all the actors back who've played the part up to that point. And Troughton steals the show for me, I have to say.
Oh, does he? Why?
Because he's fantastic in it. He's absolutely hilarious. He's not playing the Troughton of his era. He's playing a caricature version of his Doctor, but it's fantastic. It's so funny. And him and Nick together are brilliant together.
This was the first time I saw Patrick Troughton and William Hartnell. This is the first time I'd ever seen them, so I was terribly excited just to hear William Hartnell's voice, because all I had was magazine. I had the 20th anniversary special. I had Doctor Who magazine, but I'd never heard him speak. I was so excited.
Yeah. I think Hartnell's wonderful as well. For the short time we have him, he's brilliant. He's got a lovely twinkle as the first Doctor, and he's fantastic in it. I love him.
I just lament, and we'll probably get into it later, but I just lament. Imagine if they still had those film trims, the actual original film footage. It would be all we've got is the screen with the reflections and all that. So imagine it would be so clear,
and the bits of Time Lord show as well, when they picked them out of time. And there's a fan myth of the fact that this was from an episode, but one was shot at Ealing, or one that was Hartnell's garden allegedly, and there's one that's on location somewhere. The Troughton one looks like it could be from Macra Terra or something like that. That's what I thought when I was a kid, something like that, another story like that. But they're wonderful bits as well. I wonder they don't have any of that, which is such a shame. So,
it's a shame, really, isn't it? I mean, again, it was one of those things. I want to say hi to Sam. Sam is saying, the three doctors. This Chroma boy, well, Chroma 54-year-old, loves this story. It was so special to hear my hometown mentioned in Doctor Who when I first saw this in 1981. And that's the point, because we were just saying before we came on, everyone.
Stand everywhere.
Yes, the stand everywhere. A lot of us would have come to this show through the Five Faces, which we've covered last month, available on the channel. And this would have been our first introduction. And it was chosen as well, simply because the three of them were in it, wasn't it? It was a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah, as I was saying when we were getting ready to come on, I remember seeing this on broadcast vaguely. But what I do remember strangely when I was little was a trailer for the Radio Times itself with the doctors on the cover. And that's what really stuck in my head. And it wasn't until a local group meeting in 1980, a year before the Five Faces, that I saw it properly, really remembered it, and it's stuck with me ever since.
I can't believe that you got to see it a whole year before the rest of us did on get him and Andrews.
Yeah.
Richard is saying that he was a wee toddler when this was first broadcast. Well, I wish I could say the same, but I was 11. And Jack, hiya Jack, classic Doctor Who as a tonic, isn't it? Just it really did.
It's chalk and cheese, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, oh. And I have to point out as well that Kirsty here, first time she's ever seen the Three Doctors.
And everybody, she thought it was rubbish. She said off air.
She said the giggle was so much better.
She said, "Who's this William Hartnell guy?"
Kirsty, was it a culture shock for you?
No, because I've seen classic Who, but I just found it refreshing. I loved it. Absolutely adored it. I loved. Yeah, I want Joe's wardrobe. B, I just loved how they didn't have the tools that they have nowadays, so they're just the practical effects as well. I absolutely loved it. I do have a big soft spot for Patrick Troughton, and I can't wait to actually. He's one Doctor I don't really know much about, so I've got actually been given stuff that I can't wait to actually delve more into his story. He honestly stole the show for me. And one controversial approach that I didn't really warm that much to John Pertwee, but absolutely, sorry.
Sorry.
Get the door. Just what Ian's not here.
Good night, everybody.
Well, yeah, and to Ian and Tardy Spider, we have to say she's young. She's young.
How dare you? How dare you?
Well, Pertwee always, most time, plays it very straight with a twinkle as well. But he bounces off Troughton so well.
Yeah.
He built that relationship over the years in the Five Doctors, through conventions with the water pistols, all that kind of stuff. So they're great together, aren't they?
Are we going to take this attitude to my music all the time? Apparently we are.
We are.
I mean, we all know the story, and I don't know if you know about this, Kirsty, but the story was, of course, that when they first met, there were Time Lord egos on set in rehearsal, and the two of them clashed because their ways of working were totally different. And it's wonderful stories. And I remember once Pertwee at a convention, going through this and remembering this, because Paul's right, they became extremely good mates. They really became great friends. You can see it in the Five Doctors actually as well. But
you can see in the Three Doctors once they settle down and
Pertwee was telling us all, and we're all fascinated by this. He was telling us about when they came together. He said we couldn't find the way to work, and apparently it was Terence or Barry that had to go and say, "Knock it off, guys, knock it off."
Yeah.
Because the ways of working was so different.
I love that quote. Troughton said, that's not it. Pertwee says that's not the right line, and Troughton said, "Well, it's near enough."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I saw him at a convention in Australia, and he said, "I'm very Q bound," by his own admission. And he said, "Patrick's not like that. Patrick might go off and I'm quoting John here. Might go off and say, 'I've lost the bread knife.' Has nothing to do with the plot whatsoever, but he just couldn't remember his line and said, 'I'd love to.'"
Yeah.
And
but he keeps,
out of the TARDIS
as an
says,
actor, he keeps it going.
Enough.
He doesn't stop, which is brilliant.
No.
He's got a wonderful ad lib in this when they're trying to make the door appear in the cell, and as they're going out, Troughton says, "Oh, it even opens."
That would have thrown Pertwee, wouldn't it? That would have thrown him a bit. But the fact that
I'm sure it's an ad lib.
But at that point, Pertwee was used to this nonsense, so he would have got on with it. It's just amazing. Yeah, I mean, we've got. Let's have a look at what's saying here. Pete Harrison was saying just there. Troughton is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. As Tardy Spider is saying, for any Americans watching PBS, for many, this is the first look at Hartnell and Troughton. Garbage is quoting one of the famous ones. Sandever, ooh, who's for a swim?
Yeah.
Which is brilliant. And Jack is saying, I love the behind the scenes footage from this. Pat and John teasing each other, and that blood relationship, Jack, went on till Patrick passed, didn't it? You know, they was just so funny. They used to chase each other at conventions with water pistols.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't funny if you were in the way. You know, get spotted.
Apparently, the story goes they started off with little ones and they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
No, it's true.
They'd love the modern super soakers, wouldn't they?
Oh God, those two! Can you imagine? They'd be in their wheelchairs at 100 and something years old. Going,
it's interesting.
Of interest on the Tube of You, there are actually little clips from conventions with Troughton and Pertwee together, taking the mickey of each other. Little short clips from.
I've been watching those too.
Yeah, they're really funny. They're great. I found a couple of Tom ones. I found one with Tom saying, "What do you mean Peter Davis unraveled my scarf?" That's a fantastic moment.
I think our algorithms work in the same way, Paul.
They do a similar taste, Michael. That's what it is.
but on that friction though, and you know, two very, very different doctors, Patrick and John, incredibly different, but still recognizably the same character. That's all I'll say.
Oh yeah.
well, that's all you need to say, because that just come through. And
that's alluding enough there, Michael. I think, to be fair.
I wonder if Kirsty picks that up as well. The fact that, you know, again, going back to the Five Faces, I equate my own experience of the Five Doctors over those 4 nights being something similar to what they were going through in 1972 into 73. You know, where they were just like, I remember that guy. Oh, and I remember that guy. And they're with the new guy. And oh my goodness. And then the whole setup. I mean, the story is sound. The story is solid. It stands up to this very day, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Absolutely.
It's funny. It starts out like a really sort of ordinary Pertwee story with them going to the bird sanctuary and Mr. Ollis disappearing and stuff like that. And then it becomes something very special and very wacky. You know, bring the doctors in. Like I said, it was a great idea. Fantastic idea.
Well, as soon as the Time Lords turn up, you know something's up, because we don't see them.
With their round stationery. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh yeah, well that carries on into the new series, isn't it? Because you look at all the Rondels in the TARDIS and all that. Anyway, the squabbling between John and Pat is magical, says Richard. It leaks over from the different ways they acted. Yes, absolutely. And then Pete's saying here, I first saw it in black and white, then in colour for the Five Faces. He saw it in black and white. Was that a dodgy gig? Troughton surrounded by mist before he was plucked. I do remember who he was. Absolutely. I mean, oh goodness me. What else we got here? Go on.
No, I was going to say I came. You're talking about the Five Faces. I came to the Three Doctors slightly different because I'm in Australia. Clearly, if you hadn't guessed. And,
really?
Yeah, something about the time of day and my hair being first thing in the morning. Not to mention the accent. So we were watching. So I came to Doctor Who on the contemporary series that was airing when I came to it was, I think, 18. I think Logopolis is my first memory. And so, you know, so I went chronologically, Tom Baker. Then this new guy turns up, Peter Davison. Oh, and then this new guy turns up, John Pertwee. Because we got repeat.
Just so confusing.
I'm we at this time. And I'm thinking, okay, there's a new guy. And now there's an episode called The Three Doctors. Oh, it's going to have those other 2 guys in it.
No.
Hang on, there's 2 more. So that's
never been that simple.
What's going on here?
You see, what happened here is fans in Australia originated the term timey-wimey decades before Moffat. That's
only because we can't string a sentence together. That's the only reason.
GT, I don't know if you remember, there was a letter in the I think Doctor Who Weekly at one point with an Australian fan complaining about having to watch old episodes of Doctor Who.
Oh my God!
Do you remember?
Yes.
Do you remember that? And because they weren't getting the newer ones, and we were going, we want the old ones, we don't get any repeats.
But do you remember the backlash for that? And that was over there. I mean, I think the Three Doctors was involved in that as well, in that letter from this fan. All we get is the old stuff. And we're all going over here in Britain, Kirsty, going, what? I mean, I remember saying to my mum, how much is it to get to Australia for a holiday? She went, forget it. Do you know,
I was saying the same thing. Because we got excited watching the new stuff. We were like, oh great, we got the oh, look at this.
What's that about? That's happened before. Garbage is saying here, I only remember two things: the alien attacking Betsy.
That's the car from the comics. It's Bessie.
Yes, and the helmet being removed from Omega. Oh, they are two. And he's also saying that he was only 8 at the time. But what two great memories you've got from that there. And we've also got here as well. excuse me. Jack is saying Patrick Troughton trying to distract John Pertwee during a scene, which I reckon he was doing that to get on it. Look at their little jelly babies. You know, I'm sure he was winding Pertwee up.
I think Jack's referring to the behind the scenes stuff from the 5 Doctors, not the 3 Doctors, if I remember rightly.
I can't remember, but we've got Phil here. Evening, guys and gals. I'm listening for a bit from Copenhagen. Norbert. Oh, shop. He's always showing off. He's a jet setter. You see that one? He's a jet setter. Jack is quite rightly saying that both actors are much missed. Certainly from our circuits on the convention.
I cried when John Pertwee passed away. I'm not afraid to admit it. I was in tears.
That's fantastic. Pete's saying the height difference between the two. It works beautifully, doesn't it? That height difference. Hello, General Grievous. Nice to see you. Hello there. He says, trying to do an Obi-Wan impression. Nice to see you. It was obviously a low budget, but I think they did wonders with it. Yeah, and that's it. So let's go and let's kick this off properly, shall we? So yeah, we've got all this first broadcast, as I said, at the end of December 72 to January 73, and here they are. This is Barry Letts and Terence Dix, of course. Producer and script editor, and they worked on this. Oh goodness me, all the way through that. It was directed there as well by your man here. So that's fantastic. This is excuse me, I've got a problem with my throat this evening. This is the director, Lenny May. Excuse me. So that's him there. It's really difficult to find pictures of him. It was really difficult to find a picture of him.
He was Australian, wasn't he? Was he?
He was indeed. Yeah.
And of course, we got the legendary Radio Times coverage.
Those photographs, I absolutely. Yeah. If you had to nuke every Doctor Who photograph that ever existed, and you could only keep one, that would be it for me.
Well, doesn't it scream Doctor Who? It might be because we grew up with this image. The lighting is beautiful. Do you remember? See that background that they've got? Let's get closer in. The background there was the stuff that they put you in front of at school.
Look at it.
To get your picture taken. It was this sort of cyclorama thing.
Like Victorian photographs kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and the lighting is gorgeous, but look at them all. The way that it is because we grew up with these, but those always say it's Doctor Who to me. The first 3, Doctor Who.
Clayton
and I'll
Hickman.
include Tom in that, of course, but
yeah, of course.
These images are iconic.
The great Clayton Hickman. All hail Clayton Hickman. He did some wonderful colorizations of those exterior shots, and he upgraded them and everything. It looks beautiful. I just like, and look at each of their poses. Would you be happy to pop that back up, JT? The poses that they're doing. There's not a bloody hand in sight doing that surfing pose that everyone seems to do.
None of that.
Just because Tom Baker one day waved at a camera or told a camera to move away, now everyone has to put their hands in the air like
Alvin Stardust,
Beach Boys album, surfing. Everyone's doing this. Everyone's got to do that. But look at them standing there with poise. That's the word, poise.
What
is lovely about some of the variations on those photographs of the Doctors together is a couple when they're obviously joking with each other, and Hartnell and Troughton got a massive smile on their faces. A really beautiful picture, and they're really having a laugh together. That's such a sweet photograph.
And to see William Hartnell in there with them, it's just because we just get so little of him.
It must have been, as I say, it must have been incredible for people watching it back then. Because I remember, bearing in mind when the Five Faces came out in 1981, we hadn't yet had the 5 Doctors. So I'm watching this thing blown away by the fact that the 3 of them are more or less in the same vicinity of each other at the same time. Because I knew the 3 Doctors had happened, of course, but to see it was to open up a whole mythology of Doctor Who to me. It made me suddenly realize this is really something special.
Well, in those days, previous incarnations weren't referenced, let alone seen.
Yeah.
It was only when we kind of started the Pertwee era, you got a little hint of stuff like in Day of the Daleks on the mind analysis machine with the Daleks trying to find out who he is, and you get little snaps of.
Even that was exciting.
Even that was exciting. It was a still photograph, for God's sake. Yeah, so.
Well, it must have been a thrill for the fans at the time. I just want to also point out, of course, the writers of this, which were, as I said before, the must-miss Bob Baker, and of course Dave Martin. But let's get on to the story. It is solid. I said it before. It's solid, isn't it? I mean, this is just incredible, isn't it?
Can I just ask you a question, JT? I know you knew Bob. What could you give us a little bit of insight into what he was like?
Yeah, for those that don't know, I actually work for Bob and Paul TAMS, and Bob, for me, was a breath of fresh air. He would say things as they were. He was a great listener. He was a great watcher. We would go to various events and stuff, and he was very content to sit on a chair, deck chair or whatever, and just watch the world go by and watch people. He was very happy. I have to say, the first time I was introduced to him by Paul, and he was a bit sort of, it's a Doctor Who fan.
We all get like that, and we're fans.
When he realised I was actually there to work as well and work hard, wonderful. And it was always a joy to see him and catch up with him. And he had lots of stories and lots of tales and lots of stuff I couldn't possibly repeat. But he was brilliant. He was such a nice guy, and he was writing to the very, very end, of course. But he was also very proud. It was also a case of he was bewildered. Everybody, he was bewildered by the whole thing of Doctor Who. And of course, he would go to conventions and he would work in it. We'd meet fans. But he was such a soul that when the fans would gush over him like we do, he never really, in my opinion, he never really sort of understood it. You know, do you know? Yeah. But he was fantastic, and he was lovely, and he was there at a really interesting time as well. I mean, we know for a fact, you know, this script for them. He loved this script. It's a great script, yeah.
And being a fan, JT, you must have asked him some questions about Doctor Who. Did you ever ask anything about this particular story?
Oh yeah.
Bob was you can tell us it's not the bleak title.
Bob was very good, everybody. If I got too fan geeky, he would say, "Sit down."
Shut it.
Put you in your place. That's right. Yeah.
There was one particular incident, I can't remember what it was now, where I had gone on about something, and he just looked at me with pure pity. Yeah, I've gone overboard there. Yeah, I'll just go over here and have a drink and hide in a corner.
Stealing his stationery or something.
No, I didn't get that bad, but it was just amazing. But the story engages, isn't it? You know. I mean, Kirsty, what did you make of this story?
I would have preferred a story like this for the 60th than what we got. It was refreshing. It was nice. I miss stuff like that. That is just a solid story. Gold star for Patrick Troughton. Absolutely adored him in the story. You could see what we were talking about earlier, that they both were the Doctor, that when tough gets tough, you've got to get on with the situation. But they all had their own personalities, and that's why we all fall in love with our own Doctors. And I just utterly loved it. I loved being back at Unit and just how Unit should have been. And just wish we'd get more like this. And I look forward to investigating more now.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Carry on with season 10 if you've not seen that, because it's a good place to start.
Yeah. But it's interesting, like, you know, we joke about old fans, new fans, and we're so old. But it's interesting getting your perspective, Kirsty, because you know that you find the story. Okay, fine. She didn't like my comment.
No, she's there. She's there. She's coming back. She's coming back.
Thought I'd offended you, Kirsty.
She's trapped in a time eddy. Obviously, that's what's going on there.
I'm not listening to this Australian fool. But that you found it engaging. That you found it. You know, it's 50 years old, so you know, obviously we have got a subjective memory for it, so we'll watch it, you know, all day long. But that you found it engaging is quite interesting.
Yeah, happily sit and watch it again.
Yeah, wow.
With no kind of qualms at all.
I want to come to Scotland and watch it with you guys. That'd be fun.
That would be brilliant. But do you know, it proves my point. I've been saying on and on and on as we do all these reviews, and I'm going to say its story is key. And what we've had recently, somebody tell me the story, and why didn't they connect? The 3 Doctors, each of the 4 episodes, it's a story, and it's got a beginning, a middle, an end, and the plot is there. There's no contrived, I'm trying to be clever, setting things up for something that's going to happen in 20 years. You know, this is the fact that it stems from the fact that Bob and Dave had been doing research on black holes and found them fascinating. So they wrote an entire story, and then Terence comes around and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, it's got to have all these people in it." And
I miss the days when Doctor Who would take a scientific concept, hi Chris Bidmead, a scientific concept, and write a story around it
and make it entertaining as well.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And did you pick up any? I mean, it's old Doctor Who. It's proper Doctor Who, isn't it? So there wasn't any sort of subliminal. This is what I think in this, because it's not written or played or directed in this way. It's about a Time Lord that's fallen from grace that everybody thought was dead, who's actually not. He's in a black hole, and he's actually a very okay, he's a madman, but he's a very sad madman, isn't he?
The budgets were less, but the stories were grander.
That's what carried it through, and this is why I will continue to say that, especially people of Madam's age here, they will go back and understand the story and the plot and the content. And Kirsty's proving, I love this. It's the story there. So it'd be interesting to see if somebody like the youngsters, like Phil's lads, would go back and watch something like this, because they've started to, some of the youngers are going back now thanks to the iPlayer. And this is the one really between this and the 5 Doctors is the ones I'd start them off with.
Oh, yeah.
Film Watcher 96, nice to see you. To be honest, this feels more like an anniversary special than what we got now with the giggle and stuff. I totally agree. And as I was saying at the top of the show, for me, this was a breath of fresh air to go back to a Doctor Who I recognise and was entertained by. Entertained with capital entertain, because I can sit down and not worry about something coming along that's going to upset me, because it was just entertainment. You had Pertwee, you had Troughton, and everybody else around them, the lovely Katie Manning. It was all there, wasn't it, really?
Bless her. Katie Manning, God bless her. Hello, Katie, if you're watching.
Is she next door?
I'm sure she is.
Hi, Katie.
I remember her telling a story about she and John Levine in Stitches while she was trying to get the Goo-goo-goo-choo line out.
Goo-goo-goo-choo. Like you were just trying to do that.
Fits of laughter, and
had to go.
She couldn't get the line out. They were just in fits of laughter, apparently.
Richard is saying the first 4 Doctors are the 4 pillars that have supported all that. Yes, totally. Yeah. Even though now, of course, that's another show. TARDIS Spider is saying today and in 50 years, Classic Who will outdo New Who. I totally believe that. And it's like we were saying the other night, TARDIS Spider, wasn't it? We've got proper Doctor Who, as I call it. Everyone else calls it classic. You've got New Who, and now you've got Whoniverse Disney Who. The one we'll all go back to is the proper one because of story. Story. It's
the bedrock. It's the foundation.
You just have a look at the sales of the Blu-ray box sets. That proves that, doesn't it?
Oh, totally, because they are huge. And it'd be interesting, actually, as well, and we should look at this as well, everybody, when the new ones start to come out, so the complete specials are due the end of this month, and then we've got season 17, which is already number 1 in the charts for that. Here in the UK, it was number 1. That's the standard release. Be interesting to do. We'll come back to that. Remind me, everybody. We'll come back to looking at all the sales and stuff. Yeah,
I was just going to say, I wonder if that had anything to do with the delay. The fact that it
I've
overshadowed.
no idea. I don't know. Richard is saying he was 10 for the 5 Faces. Wonderful. We're talking about the 3 Doctors here, Richard. Come on.
Well, that's the 5 Faces. That's what we're talking about.
I love the Visitation.
Oh, and Pete's saying love that picture of all of them, and then of course Meddling Funk. Now I haven't got the picture of this because I didn't think anyone was going to mention it, and I should have done, but the Target book cover was lovely. And do you remember when that iconic Target book cover, which I can't reach because it's over there, that iconic Achilles cover, that grabbed my attention years before I got to see it in 1981. I remember looking at it and going, there's all 3 of them.
It's the bit I like is the back cover with the Troughton. I think it's Troughton and Benton with the jail guards taking them to Palace. Fantastic stuff.
Taking a walk with my friend here.
What did you think of the jail guards? I think they're very cute. It's a cross between the Soup Dragon and Mr. Blobby. What did you think?
It was so glittery and shiny. I loved it.
Them. Yeah, they're great.
I loved it.
Yeah. Did you love them?
It's the Doctor's birthday and they've got jelly. What did you expect?
Oh, that's quite a good way to look at this. I've got a little story about these, if I may, as well, about these. Because in the script, they weren't called the Gel Guards. they were just called guards. Bob and Dave didn't really take to the word gel guards. It was Terence that called them the gel guards.
Oh, right, I thought it came from the Weetabix cards, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was Terence that gave them the nickname the gel guard. But I mean, we all know the iconic blobby look here. You know, blah, 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 you know, there they are. Yeah, there they go. Yeah, they are very of their day, of course. They're supposed to be. But I was wondering if you would like to see the new version that was designed, because before he passed, of course, Bob and Paul TAMS were working on the K9 versus Omega movie, and Paul, hi Paul, has been very, very gracious, and he said, when I told him we were doing this, he said, why don't you show them the redesigned ones that Paul designed for this film, and which Bob signed off and loved. So here you go. This is what the guards could be called from now on. Could be looked like.
Oh wow!
Oh,
so this was the concept art, which was signed off by both Paul and Bob. This was designed by Paul, and this is what they could look like in the future.
Wow!
It's interesting. They've kept a similar bit with the eye and the head a little bit. It's interesting. That's still the same.
That's the that's dare I say I want to see that more than some other things.
Well, these are now called the antimatter beasts, according to Paul. That's what Paul suggested, and Bob went with it in the film, which it's called Timequake between K9 and Omega, because of course Bob created both. And have to tell you as well, I was lucky enough to read the script, and it was cracking.
Oh, really?
Absolutely cracking, and it's a great script.
Can't imagine Omega versus K9. I mean, you little dog, you annoying little dog, get away from me.
Well, you saw what happened to him in School Reunion. It'd be the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm having problems with my fan. It's really hot here. We're in the middle of we're in Northern Australian summer here. So is my fan causing any problems with?
No, you're absolutely fine, mate. You're absolutely fine. No. So that's a little treat for you. So if anything more happens with this, then I will of course let you know on this very, very channel. But that are the gel guards, which are now called the antimatter beasts, and that was the design of the concept art of what they would look like instead of that.
I think they look fantastic, but it's a great progression. I mean, and if they're made of antimatter, why would they stay the same?
Absolutely,
so
it's definitely a million miles better than the Ergon from Arc of Infinity, isn't it?
Well,
yeah, but
that's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got people here saying "A up" to that. General Greaves is saying nice concept art. I'm glad you appreciated that, because it was very.
Thanks for showing us that.
It's very great. It was good of Paul. Hi, Paul, to let us have that. Richard is saying they look great, and they wouldn't have been doing all that. They would have been proper, nasty, vicious aliens, really. Phil's here saying that's a nice modernization, kind of new but respectful of the originals. Looks a bit Warhammer, to be fair. Yeah, to be honest as well. I mean, the thing about that with that concept art is that they had to keep up to date with what was going on. So that's great. So I'm glad you like that.
Would they have been CGI or puppetry, or I suppose
a mix of both? A mix of both. A mix of both here.
Because you could do them like xenomorphs, couldn't you?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Phil's actually answering what I was saying there about his lads. He's saying that Teddy has seen. Teddy, of course, is a Who viewer. Hiya, Teddy, when you watch this.
Hi, Ted.
He's seen the 5 Doctors and loved it, but he's not tried the 3 Doctors yet. So stay tuned. We will have an update from Teddy, I'm sure, about what he thought about that.
If you've enjoyed the 5 Doctors, you'll love the 3 Doctors.
There's no Cybermen in it for him, is there?
No, look at this. By the way, I tried Jelly Babies last year for the first time. This store I went to here in Canada sells some UK candy, so I bought some. It's a good candy, and I can see why the Doctor loves it. Especially number 2, number 4, and number 8. Yeah.
And notice it's number 2, if you pardon the expression, that actually produces them for the first time in the 3 Doctors.
Yeah.
Not Tom.
Now that we're in here, what do? Well, we have a think. Care for a jelly baby.
Yeah, we have that. I mean, this is great that we're talking about this. I mean, these characters, as we touched on before, same character, different order.
That's why it's been left up to me and me and me. I knew the whole thing verbatim because I recorded it on my pathetic little mono Hitachi tape recorder off the telly, and we went camping in an area called Cape Tribulation, which Brendan will know very well. Tropical, you know, in the tent, listening to the Three Doctors. It was fantastic. Great memories.
Yeah. What's this that Richard's saying? I'm the proud owner of the original Three Doctors Target novelization with an extra color picture on the back. We'll love it. Yeah, they're wonderful books, those, and the illustrations to it. But do you remember when you saw it, Richard? When I first saw that Three Doctors book in the library, as it would have been then, it just blew my mind, because there was Omega, there was the beautiful orange on it, the 3 black and white, you know, pictures of the original 3, and I had to have that one. That was my book of the week. I was allowed 1 or 2 books a week, Kirsty, back in those days from the library, which were that was one of them.
The Target version doesn't have any illustrations in that version, does it? It's a later one, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, look at this. Garbage is saying to you, Kirsty, you're bang on. Imagine if this had been done for the 60th, it would have got 10 million viewers. Well, it did.
Yeah, but no, it's great. But yeah, so we've got this epic, haven't we? We've got this sort of stuff coming on. We have to mention that as part of this epic. We can't. Well, come on.
I was just going to say,
the man himself.
He is in fine form in this story.
Isn't he loving every single minute of it?
Oh no! Oh yes, but it can't be. It is, sir. It's the first one.
He's just brilliant, isn't he? The way he reacts to this. I mean, it just shows how Nick was able to get the script and play it so straight like this. And it's that lovely line at the end. Miss Grant was the doctor with you. Yeah. Well, he couldn't have been, because he was with me. His brain just can't comprehend it. Can't
one of them chaps, both of them. Yeah.
Yes, which turned into a running gag for it, wasn't it? I wonder what you would. I wonder if
ask you about that. I wonder how much of it was tinkered by Terence, if you pardon the expression, because he there's a lot of lines are very Terence-like, if you know what I mean. I don't want to get away from Bob and Dave, but there's some interesting lines, like, as Michael mentioned, me and me and me, and all that kind of stuff. Lots of funny lines that are very Terence-y, I think, in there, don't you think?
I think there's a bit of tinkering to suit the era that they're in, and the nods. We know that Terence was the big guy. I mean, he worked on the Troughton era as well. So there were occasional. I mean, one of the famous things, of course, was that which Bob always liked this story. The fact that the original line was, "Oh, so you're my replacements, a hairdresser and a clown," and Terence changed the hairdresser to Dandy before it got to Pertwee. You know, because that would have meant a little bit sort of. Ooh. Do you know what I mean? But he always thought that was hilarious, because the line was hairdresser and a clown.
He's got a very good point. He does look a bit like a hairdresser, to be fair.
Do you think so?
From the 70s, I mean, yes.
Do you mean that? Are you talking about the famous Pertwee Buffon?
Yes. He dressed his own hair.
He's magical. Look at them both.
He had a wig
look at
wrangler or something on set.
But but it's wonderful. But you see the whole setup, don't you, with Nick in this as well, and he's playing this confusion absolutely spot on. And you must. Sorry, Kirst?
He's having fun with it. You can see that he's just going to work for banter and just having fun with what he's been given. Absolutely.
It's a bit that doesn't get mentioned very often. The bit in episode 1 where they're in the lab and Dr. Tyler's there and they're reading all the readings from the balloon and all that kind of stuff. And the brigadier says, "What can we do about it?" And the doctor says, "Can you pass me that silicon rod?" And he starts his tea. That's fantastic stuff.
That's British. The doctor. Yeah.
And it's so British as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So British, that moment. It's got that British sense of humor, which could possibly be disappearing now. Oh, controversial again. But I mean, it's in there, isn't it? You just go, yes, that is so the Doctor. It's so British at the time.
The tone for the story is brilliant. It's spot on. It doesn't jar at all. It's brilliant stuff. Really is.
And you, of course, you get the Brigadier finally meeting the First Doctor and his reaction. Who in the name of heaven was that? I'm afraid you never believe me.
You don't believe me, And it's Joe that clears it up, isn't it, towards the end? He says, "That old fella, afraid so."
Yes.
Never knew when I was well off.
Three of them. Yeah. I mean, he was lucky with just the 3, though, considering that he actually managed to get right to the 5th. You know, it was just it was brilliant, that one. I mean, it's just
his reaction to the TARDIS as well. This is what you've been doing with unit funds and equipment all this time.
I love that his first thought is to budget. You know, exactly where the money's going.
How much was this? Yeah.
Oh, they come like this, really.
Yeah.
It is fantastic, that whole thing, isn't it? I love it
as well. When trying to fix the walkie-talkie, he's banging it on the console, and he takes it, and it doesn't work. And then he gives it back to him, and it doesn't work. And his face is like Stan Laurel. The glee on the Doctor's face when it works is brilliant. I love when the Doctor does that. I'm surprised when he actually technology works, like McCoy in the and I think it's Remembrance when the thing with the Daleks works, and he's surprised that the actual device works. I love that when the Doctor's not sure. It's great stuff. Yeah.
I mean, the Brigadier's. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go on. You love what?
No, I was just going to say I love the Brigadier's, frustration. The way he's, my place is with the men out there, not standing around here looking for some damn full flute.
This one was. I'm glad we've got onto this because this is what it's like, isn't it, Who viewers? We've got these wonderful 4 episodes which are celebrating 10 years, which was never really done on British television. And let's face it, they were never as congratulatory as they all seem to be these days. Oh, look at us, aren't we brilliant? We've managed to do 50 years, 60 years, whatever.
Or 3 specials.
Or 3 specials. And it was just a normal story run over 4 weeks. It just happened to have the other 2 in it as well. It's an engaging story. It's got we're going to talk about the big bad in a minute, but it's also bloody funny. And the actors recognize when there's something they can be funny with, and because they're bouncing off each other, and because the direction is nice, and they've got that freedom to be able to say, "It's a birthday party, guys. Do the job, but have fun with." I think that comes through. Kirsty, with you being a first viewer, did you get this feeling of, fun and adventure and wholesomeness?
Yeah, it is how the Brigadier was. You can just see that they came to work and it was almost like going playtime. Just go have fun. Just see what happens. See what's cracking. You could see that, and that's what's missing. And it's refreshing that there's no barriers or anything held behind because of the message. That they were just going to do something that they love and bringing a story.
The drinker on here to say that for us, really, are we? We're going to have to say to the drinker, "Can you send us that?" Because we can use that.
Message.
Yes.
No, don't. He'll sue you. He's got it copyright now.
Oh, sorry.
No. Connor's here. Hiya, Connor. I love this. Only Doctor Who fans can celebrate the anniversary of an anniversary. You're bloody right. You're absolutely right.
Every year.
Every year we'll celebrate it. But it's a big one, Connor, because it's golden jubilee in itself, and because we've been doing it, we've done the 5 Faces this year, we did Do the Doctor, and then we did this. It just made sense really to do this in this anniversary month for it. So I hope you're enjoying it as well. What do you think of the 3 Doctors? Let us know. So what else we got here? What's this? Oh, this is about the blobs. This is about the guards, the gel guards, or as they're going to be called now, the antimatter beasts. I like the idea of these. They are pared down to essentials: 1 arm, 1 eye, and a clever idea. Yeah. Yeah, but you are thrown off a bit, really, isn't it? Because I want to talk about the bit where you first see Bessie. That music. Let's talk about that music for a minute.
Never mind.
It's all right.
Or Millie Gibson. You've got one for Bessie. That's what you like, yeah.
I love that. The whole thing about that. It was so eccentric in itself. It's sort of
played by Patrick Troughton on his recorder as well, just for that one little bit. Yeah.
Oh, hey Phil, stop it. Phil saying if you like the 3 Doctors, you'll bloody adore the 2 Doctors. Different show completely, and you're coming on for that one, mate.
The jury's out on that one, I'm afraid. But
Garbage is saying the scientist got zapped away. That was a shock for him, completely out of the blue. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Thanks, Garbage, because this is, you've got this fear of this great little electronic effect for the early 70s, isn't it? This sort of ready sort of thing coming along. That must have been quite scary for the kids of the day. And then suddenly zap.
Well, when it comes through the kind of like the air vent, whatever, like that, that's fantastic stuff.
Yeah. And you can actually see that the Pertwee Doctor, he's actually really worried about this because the way he snaps at Jo, do as I say. I mean, is that the first time he snaps at her like that?
Probably not.
Oh, right. I can't remember. Maybe it's just because it was the first time I saw it.
But sometimes, but that's what you knew when there was gravity to a situation when the Doctor would do something like that, snap like that. I mean, Seeds of Doom's a classic when Tom Baker's getting quite shirty, and that's why I did like about that clip in the newer one where he's telling Donna to go back to the TARDIS. It actually gives it a bit of gravity. He's not goofing around all the time,
So you've got the whole unit set up. And
it does indeed, Phil. It does indeed.
I was hoping the one come out. It is, Sam. The Chroma line is a Courtney line because he got his first job in Chroma. That's what he told me. Very probably, because I don't know if it would have been officially in the script, but it is a good gag.
Chroma.
It's a good gag, isn't it? It really is a good gag. What else we got here? Yeah, so we've got this whole scene, haven't we? Let's get on to the big bad now. Let's get on to Omega. Omega was a culture shock for me as an 11-year-old. I had never seen a baddie quite like Omega. I had vague memories of Eldrad, and it was only vague.
That's maybe where you recognise him from, then.
Well, yeah, because we all know, of course, Omega. Let's out, played by this gentleman here. God love him.
What a voice!
Incredible voice and incredible posture, wasn't it? And he was.
I think it's Stephen Thorne's best performance. I think in Doctor Who, definitely.
Well, definitely, yeah. But because of his performance, Omega became suddenly a Doctor Who icon, a legend. And as I was saying to Bob before he passed, every blooming year at that point when Doctor Who was coming on air, you would see Omega's coming back. Omega's coming back. Oh, it's rumored that Omega's coming back. That showed you the impact, and he was chuffed about this because he would go, "Oh no, he's not. It's not going to happen." It was all this sort of stuff. It was amazing, but that showed you the impact. And again, he was reused in '83, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Not as well, but here Stephen Thorne just captures it, and the menace of the thing, the look of the thing. It was still quite scary. Yeah, I mean, it was still quite scary for me as an 11-year-old.
It's very kind of Greek tragedy kind of look to it. It's fabulous. It is.
Yeah, and the fact that it's behind the mask again.
Yeah, no, it's a terrific design.
But that moment, the moment when he takes the mask off and realizes it's just his will, and Pertwee turns reaction, and then that agonizing howl that he gives out is fantastic. Really, you can really feel the pain from Omega. I remember seeing an interview with Barry Letts saying on the run through, he said, "Can you tone it down a bit? It's a bit scary for the kids." But it's still quite scary for the kids with that big groan he gives when he's like obviously upset that there's nothing left of him.
It's quite a horrific concept.
It is, yeah.
Well, it is, Michael, isn't it? It's like I was saying, one of you mentioned that he's a bit Greek tragedy-ish. The costume reflects that because he is really, because when you think about it, and as I get older, I sort of do, I think Omega is a very tragic character because he's stuck there on his own all those years. He's created this world of his, which I'm sure, would look extremely good if they were to do it today.
Yeah.
And all he craves really is existence. He's craving others around him, rather than just blobs and things that he's making up through his head. He's creating. He wants sentient. It's very sad, in a sense. It is tragic. Again, Paul TAMS has sent the new look Omega. If you're interested.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. So again, this is from the K9 versus Omega film that Bob and Paul wrote before Bob passed. This is the concept art that Paul put together and was signed off by Bob as well as himself. And this is what Omega will look like.
Oh, wow. I'm going to stop saying wow, but it's amazing.
Yeah. So this is this is exclusive to us at Who's Views. This is what the art was looking like. This was Omega. So as you can see, it hails more to the 3 Doctors version, than it does to the later version. But they were never happy with the look of the one in '83. But they wanted something that was reminiscent to that, so that we would get this as fans who happened to cross the K9 film, who would look at the film. And when I first saw this, I was blown away because you knew instantly who this was.
Who's the designer for these things, JT?
This is Paul.
This is Paul.
Yeah. This is Paul.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's got little. I mean, I didn't say what you want about the Man of Steel film, but it reminds of the costume. I'd imagine would look very similar to some of those Kryptonian outfits. It's just in terms of the way the costume's constructed. I could see the green bits glowing and all that sort of stuff. It looked fantastic.
Yeah,
and the mask itself almost looked like a war chief of a tribe or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
I love the cloak. Or it looks like a cloak down the his lower.
Yes, he had a cloak as well. Yeah,
it looks lovely. So he
was supposed to have a cloak in this. You can actually just see it there. It's actually blue. Yeah. So it still was, but they just updated it slightly, and he had more power. He was more powerful, of course, in this because he'd learned to use the antimatter. That's all I can say. I'll probably get into trouble for that.
He's mastered it. Yeah.
You can't just make chairs.
Well, let's hope we see it
willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Have a chair, Doctor. Yes, have a seat.
Let's hope we see it.
Meddling Funk is saying much prefer Paul's to the 83 interpretation. Yet yeah. I mean, that was always the whole point about this as well. Phil's saying Aztec Omega. It looks like when Pokemon evolved. I bloody love it. Tardy Spider is saying I like it, yet wonder how well it would be imagined into a costume. All I can say is pretty well.
Did they do a costume test? You can't say. He's not saying.
You just
I'm
have
not
to
privy
read,
to
read
anything,
between
folks.
the lines, folks. Read between the lines.
I'm like you. I'm just probing.
Madam, yes, matron. It's like a tribal head mask of sorts. Absolutely, that's got there. And Sam is saying about the performance from Stephen Thorne, the best character and performance.
And that's a character you can go over the top. You can. I mean, we talk about over the top villains and playing it straight, but that's a character that can be over the top, can be melodramatic, can be completely full on because the whole concept.
A bit like Michael Wisher as Davros. There's different levels to it. It's not on the one level. It's quite
as
subtle.
Long as there's some variance, as long as it's got somewhere to go. That's the thing. If you start too big,
if you're too big, you can't. Yeah,
you've got nowhere to go, and that's what I loved about all these old Who characters. Yes, they can be
but often Stephen Fry gets criticised for being too over the top. I think it's not one dimensional. It's very varied.
Can you imagine Stephen Fry playing Omega?
Did I say Stephen Fry? Okay. Well, I was half right. Stephen Fry was going to come back and do it in the new series, but he couldn't do it. So
can you imagine that?
I'm just imagining Stephen Fry now doing Omega.
There we go. You heard it here first.
Well, I just want to say another big thank you for letting us have those designs exclusive to ourselves here. And stay tuned with us on Who's Views, because as soon as we know of anything that's going on what future lies with these designs, I will be telling you to stay with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe on that particular one. Garbage is now saying, pardon me, sorry about my throat, everybody. I've got a bit of a throat thing going on. And over the top Omega is so different to an OTT New Who the Master.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The brilliant thing about that is when it comes to Omega, and Kirsty, again, I'm going to come to you as get your opinion on this as the newbie to the show. You can get away, as you guys are saying there, this is a big character, and you can understand why he's gone completely stark raving loony, can't you?
Oh yeah, it was theatrical, but it was correct theatrical. How we've been talking about the Joker, because I just completely switched off. I wasn't the biggest fan of John Sim as the Master. I preferred seeing OG version of Master in Classic Who, and it is that fine line now of like how when Heath Ledger did the Joker and everyone's tried to up the ante with that of the bad character with a complex and all that, and they get a bit too much. No one's really been able to get that fine line, and Omega was theatrical, and there were so many layers to it compared to what you get nowadays. I just rolled my eyes after having such a brilliant character as Missy to then having the Master that we got for the 13th, and no one can top that right now. You have to get someone in with big guns to be able to bring something like that to life in the correct balance.
To do that. I don't know if you can actually do that now on television, because television seems to have gone quite small again. To paraphrase William Hartnell, it's gone quite small again. Whereas when you're looking at the Three Doctors, the performances drove the story. You had to have the performances because they didn't have much to play with then, did they?
No,
still looks good.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Did you really?
I want that.
It's one of Jim Atchison's early works, isn't it?
I want James and Flair.
Yeah. It's the music that goes with that whole thing. Because when they're moving through, not the quarry, but when they're moving through the set of Omega, I mean, that's one thing that on the original script, of course, it was a palace, massive, huge, towers, fantasy land. There was no way. I mean, the boys did go over the top when it came to Omega's world, his entire domain. And then the BBC come along and say, we're just going to paint a few flats and stick a telly in it.
Well, it's interesting. It looks like Omega's just rented a TV from Radio Rentals, don't you think?
He probably did. He's wished
just
for
got
local
down
radio
the
rental.
I'll get one. Yeah.
maybe he's got the new. Maybe he uses the new sonic screwdriver to change channels.
Oh,
possibly,
please
yeah.
don't.
It's due for, yeah.
I wonder if he actually had a. I wonder if he actually had a TV license. But I mean, I get, that's the thing about this, isn't it? Because they were working in these sort of restrictions of the time, of course, with the BBC, it was all about that performance. It was understanding the story. It was the chemistry that came through people, and it was driving, wasn't it? I mean, why do you guys think Omega, 50 years on, with a new generation in, is so fascinating for them? Why do you think that every single year to this very day? I saw before these specials came on this year that again some of the fans were saying Omega's responsible for something. Why did Omega capture kids that weren't even around 50, 40
it's all
years
down to the
ago?
writing and the performance.
I would say so, yeah. But they are still going about it now. Apparently, some of the hints with these big bads coming into the next couple of series, they are still saying, can it be on Omega now? I think they're saying that for coming soon. Yeah.
And it's been interesting to see what you guys thinking, everybody in the chat, and thank you all for watching. Why do you think you see these new fans, especially? I don't even know if some of these fans have even looked at the Three Doctors. I'm not sure. I hope they have, because you get a proper story with it. You get proper good performances, etc., etc., etc. But I just find it fascinating, you know, and Bob did too as well in his very relaxed way. You know, I'd be always going on, oh, look at this, saying Omega's coming back, and you know, you just chuckle at it. But I just something caught the imagination from 50 years ago to today, isn't it? It's amazing.
I think as well, part of the writing part of the story as well, and narratively for the Doctor, this is quite an important time for him to be freed by the Time Lords as well. So I think it's quite a significant part of the history, not just having the Doctors together, but moving forward. And Pertwee's now released to travel around the universe again like he used to. So maybe that's part of it too, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah. There's this line here from Garbage, Brother Time Lord. I love that line.
Time Lord.
What is it about that line that I love? There was just some of the way Omega treats them.
Isn't it?
It's the implication that that only you, Doctor, can understand my.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And the brilliant thing about all of us knowing this as well, Kirsty, is you're going to get bored with this, because these are the stories where we can, like Michael is brilliantly performing for us as well.
I wouldn't say that.
A lot of this is ingrained on our memory, including this one from Darren. Hero, I should have been a god. Which I've said when I go and pick up the milk in the morning, to be quite honest, when I open the door in the world. It's been known. Nice to see you, Darren. It defines Omega. It defines Omega, and says Darren. Superb performance from Stephen Thorne. Well, it is, isn't it? It absolutely is. And we'd known him as Azael, we'd known him as Eldrad, and we'd known him as but to see him as Omega, nothing could quite touch that.
I think I said this before. One of my favourite little cameos from Stephen Thorne is the Ogron in Frontier in Space. He's like, "Yes, Master." He's a bit kind of thick, a bit stupid, and he wanders off. It's quite good. But,
yeah,
he wasn't the one that said no complications, was he?
No, he wasn't. That's a different one. He was in that.
Garbage is reminding everybody. All the classics are now on BBC iPlayer. So if you are new to Doctor Who and you haven't seen any of the original stuff, and you're finding us somehow through the miracle of these things that work, yes, go and have a look at your BBC iPlayer if you've got TV license. And hopefully some new viewers will watch some of these. I hope so. What's this about from Phil? It's the concept and the visual of Omega that sticks. It's enormous cosmic power, absolute madness, yet pitiable. He is very pitiable, isn't he, in a sense? And yeah, it could be that, couldn't it? The concept and the visual of Omega. Powerful, isn't it, Phil? And it's big.
And dare I say, his brevity. I mean, we only saw him twice. He's mentioned extensively in Remembrance, but that's it. I mean, there's a lot to be said for not bringing something back every 5 minutes to give it some weight.
Yeah. I mean, even if they'd left him,
there's an enigma about him.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why John started season 20 with Omega.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand that. But even if he hadn't gone back to that villain from 10 years before, and the impact on all of us watching that in 83 was huge, wasn't it, really? But even if he hadn't, we'd still have the Three Doctors and that whole mystery around Omega to say, where is he? What's happened?
I I remember a quote from Peter Davison during season 20 saying he, on his own, managed to defeat Omega, not 3 of them.
That's a beautiful Doctor type thing to say, isn't it? It really is. And well done, Peter, for getting in on that one as well. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we are going to come to. I'll just remind everybody, we will be coming to scores on the TARDIS doors of this as well. Where ourselves and you all mark this out of 10. Interestingly, I noticed we've had some scores already. So start thinking about that. Out of 10, let us know. We'll put them up when we get to that bit here. I'm going to pick on Kirsty again. Can you just say to, I mean, coming off the back of what you've watched from the modern era, being brought up in the modern era as well, what is it that got you about these 4 episodes?
I think Paul egging me on, and Paul and I have known each other for a while, so being egged on to do that, won't back down. But also just actually now having the time to delve more into it, because with the stuff that we're getting nowadays, I love how they were limited on budget and they did the best that they could. And nowadays, I'm a big stickler for people having lots of money, but it's all gone Pete-tong and it all looks horrible. So I was really interested to see what was going to come from this and see an anniversary special. And yeah, it's just nice to see more of the universe that I fell in love with and see more parts that I've not seen yet. It's just refreshing. I said that at the start of the show. It's just refreshing to see, compared again to having kind of stuff that you're made to feel bad for who you are, instead of having stuff that'll maybe make you think, or just purely escapism. That's what we miss as well, and that's what I love to have. That was just pure escapism. I take a long time, if I don't like stuff nowadays, that I'll start just playing on my phone.
Yeah.
And especially with stuff like some kind of later on back end Capaldi stuff, and especially with She Who Shall Not Be Named, that I would just start doom scrolling. And that's once I start scrolling, you've lost my attention, and I didn't scroll once, and it was just nice and refreshing. Simply that.
I love that. Isn't that concise, everybody? And also, you're illustrating the point that we've talked about before here. Less is more.
Mm-hmm. JT, can I put a little request out? Can you get our viewers to give a suggestion for Kirsty to watch next, a classic story? That'll save me nagging her, you see, that's why it's
Planet. The Web Planet on a Dolby surround sound.
Yeah. We've got Vasco's joined us. Hello, mate. Nice to see you. Every new fan goes through a stage of having the 50th as the favourite special and replacing it with the 3 Doctors when they grow up. I did.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Let's not talk about the 50th anniversary special. I didn't really like that one.
Hey, it's looking better with every year.
Well, that's true. What we've just been through, actually, it was probably better, wasn't it? Oh, and Garbage is saying here, one of his favourite scenes where all the people are walking through the Singularity and the Brigadier turns around and salutes. Amazing. Yeah. And it's a shame that they couldn't do what they wanted to do, because the original plan in the script was that would be a column of fire, which would be very easy to do today.
Yeah.
But they couldn't do it then for health and safety.
You can hear the actors walking off as they
pouring their tea.
Yes.
Yeah. On the lovely
the paper.
Oh, isn't it lovely?
It's a bit like that scene in Naked Gun when what's in there goes to the bathroom, isn't it? A bit like that.
Yeah. In case you don't know as well,
that scene's over.
Yeah.
This, in case Kirsty doesn't know, in case anybody doesn't know, this wasn't actually. This was a rewrite of the rewrite. The original idea also originally, of course, included Fraser Hines, who wasn't allowed to be released from Emmerdale Farm, as it was called then. So we didn't get the pairing of Jamie and the 2nd Doctor with the 3rd Doctor and Joe Grant. That would have changed everything. And one of the things I'm really disappointed about, and I'm going to tell you something here that I probably shouldn't do, is that Bob and Paul TAMS had been working on a graphic novel based on the original script with Fraser and Jamie in it. And I'm gutted that we're not going to get to see it.
and more of the 1st Doctor, I assume, as well.
Well, the 1st Doctor was very active in the first draft, and that was rewritten fairly quickly, if memory serves. It was rewritten when it came through from Mrs. Hartnell. He's talking nonsense, you know. But let's talk about that as well. I mean, so we've got the 1st Doctor. It's now become a bit of a gag every every 10 years or something to have one of them trapped somewhere, hasn't it, really? Yeah. But there he is, and William Hartnell's giving his last performance, as we know, certainly his last performance as the Doctor. It works to the benefit of the story, strangely, doesn't it?
I was going to say, in the same way that Tom isn't involved in the Five Doctors, you think it'd work against it, but it works for it, because it gives the other Doctors time to breathe. So when you get the chance for Troughton and Pertwee to work off together, and his little cameos just popping in now and again to give advice, works brilliantly, I think. And I think Hartnell's performance is beautiful in it. Really is.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Go on, Michael.
No, I was just agreeing with Paul. I love watching Bill Hartnell's scenes. Just having there one last time is so good. And
he gets to interact with the Time Lords.
And he plays, yes. And he plays it with gravitas. I mean, we can get into the, how does that work continuity-wise? But
anything goes now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, it's a very dignified performance.
Yeah. The bit that tickles me the most is at the very end bit. They're all in the lab celebrating the defeated Omega, and Hartnell's in the TARDIS going, "Hello, is anybody there?" Oh,
yeah.
It's quite funny.
That is a lovely moment. Oi, you lot, get back in here. You know what always gets me about this, though, and I think I've mentioned this somewhere before. William Hartnell is always looked at by his successors as the decision maker, the chief, the one that Troughton himself says it. I've always had great respect for what he told me to. I've always had great respect for him, and yet he's the youngest of the lot of them. Yeah.
And yet,
what is it about that?
He actually says to Pertwee, though, older and wiser heads like that, and offers him to say something. So there's a bit of a contradiction there. But
it's a nice little nod to Hartnell as the gaffer, really, isn't it? The one that started it after, before, because they do it again in the Five Doctors, really,
And Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee play so well to what is essentially a pre-record.
Yes,
they react to it so well and it's so straight. They don't falter. It doesn't feel. It's not mistimed.
It's not chameleon, is it? It's not like
no.
Yes, it's not that kind of thing.
It's not like we're waiting for the line now and awkward gap, awkward pause. They respond. It's perfect. It's like he's in the next studio just reading the lines.
Yeah, exactly. TARDIS Spider is saying here, because he was on the view screen, they had to look up to him the entire time, emphasizing how much they respected him. Interesting. I'd never thought about that before. And Pete's saying, do we know what Hartnell is exactly in? It's the old math. Paul, Michael, you remember this? The old myth was they did it in his garage, but it wasn't. It was actually filmed on a soundstage in Ealing.
Yeah. Oh, was it Ealing? Was it?
It was Ealing. Yeah.
Did you remember from the Two Doctors that the Karts and Reimer module? It looks like that triangular bizarre thing he's sitting in. Don't you think?
Yes. A friend of mine noticed that in '85. He said that's like the thing that the first Doctor was trying. Oh, you're brilliant, you are. But I wondered if that was ever. But it's supposed to be a time bubble, isn't it? Some sort of time eddy.
Time eddy. I'm stuck in this infernal time eddy.
Yeah, because the Time Lords didn't have enough power to get him from his time stream and travel him into the Third Doctor's time stream. This is when the show wasn't that complicated. Yeah, time stream. Each Doctor was in his own time stream, and that was it. And that was it. So when they came out of their own time stream and went into another one, usually by some sort of force like the Time Lords, although there's a happy meeting, of course, as Phil was saying in the Two Doctors, but that's just coincidence because time travel, it's going to happen at some point.
And normally it's against the laws of time unless it's the Doctor's birthday. Generally, that's how it works.
Do you know? It can only happen every so many years. But do you know what? Omega knows the laws of time. Isn't that interesting? He's created it all. So has he been keeping an eye on Gallifrey, do you think? In spite, as they all become big and powerful and he becomes small and mad? Do you think that's part of his jealousy because he's able to look at them and go, "Oh my God," I don't know.
Well, his reaction to the fact that two are the same Time Lord, and then early on the Time Lords are reluctant to take him out of time and bring him together. It's wonderful that mythos is built up. The Time Lords. You can't do it. It's against the law of time. All that mythos is fantastic, isn't it? Really creates a good backstory, doesn't it?
Love it.
And I love the idea that there are laws of time. That time is something that is so fragile and so powerful at the same time that you really, even the most evil people in the universe know that. Hang on, there's some things you can't do. It's like we all know that we can't take a live match to a service station. We just don't do it. I love that. It actually placing limitations on the narrative, I think, works better than just saying anything goes.
Yeah. But that you're absolutely right there.
Sorry.
I didn't say anything.
Even the Daleks know about the laws of time.
Yeah.
The Cybermen had a basic understanding of it, and I just think you're right. I agree with you. I love that because that whole thing. I mean, it was obvious that back in 1972, 73, a whole load of people who were going to be writing science fiction stories for Hollywood, Bill and Ted, were going to be looking at these sorts of things, and they watched those Doctor Who's and thought, oh, there's laws of time. Back to the Future. We will put these things in, and we will build. I think it's all down to the three doctors, myself and Yardo, if you don't agree to me. Richard Brooks is saying, perhaps as Bill is the first, his incarnation is the most authentic representation of the Doctor's.
Is he the first?
Of course, he's the first. We're not having any of that nonsense on this show, please.
It's apparently been retconned, somebody said. Never mind. Okay.
Well, do you know what, Rich? I love what you're saying there, because in my mind, the Doctor grew up as a male on Gallifrey, did all what he had to for hundreds of years, as we know, in his set. Went to the academy, failed, did something that we don't know about and should never know about, escaped. And by that point, he was aging into the Hartnell version. So I think we're on the same lines there, Richard.
He was an interstellar punk rocker and got fed up with it all and said, "I'm off."
Well, there's a line that always intrigues me, and this is my fan canon thing, as you do head canon. But that Omega says it amuses me using you against them, or what's to that effect. Like the Doctor was a significant force around about the same time as Omega, which is kind of picked up or touched on in McCoy's time. Whether that is just me with fan speculation, but it's an interesting line, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. I mean, isn't this amazing? We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the 10th anniversary special, The Three Doctors, and we're still asking questions. And we're still talking about it. And as we're talking here, I'm thinking we could have asked Bob this if he'd been with us still, but do you know what? He wouldn't have known. He wouldn't have been able to answer any of that. It's whatever you want it.
Well, exactly. That's what it should be. Yeah. So.
But
that's it. I mean, leave a bit of mystery. Leave a bit of,
Yeah. Sam is saying quite rightly here, it's a shame about Jamie, but we did get more Benton, so that was good. And Benton, he shines, doesn't he?
Benton's great. Another favourite bit of mine is when they're coming into Omega's palace together, and if he's going to say, "Oh, that's the Doctor," and Troughton kicks him. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
This is another photograph. Now you've mentioned this. This is another photograph that screams Doctor Who to me. I've got a jigsaw of this.
So did I.
Yeah. Yeah. I've still got it. And as a little boy, the Pertwee jigsaws were so special to me. And this was one that was really special because it had the other one on it.
Having Troughton on it's superb, isn't it? Yeah.
But just look at the colours. I mean, that looks better on the jigsaw box than it did on set. And I had that jigsaw years before I got to see the episode, and I still can't place this. I know it's in the throne room, but it doesn't look like it's there, does it? I mean, look at the two of them in their respective characters. It's just gorgeous. I love it.
One of the biggest questions for me that opens up is, what color was Patrick Troughton's shirt all the way through his tenure? Was it always blue? Was it white sometimes?
I think it was always blue, wasn't it?
I think it was. I love these braces. They're superb. I think they're different suits of cards, like diamonds and spades and stuff. I think different colors on the on the braces. Fantastic stuff.
No, he's so good. He's so good.
I mean, it's just wonderful, and the way that because it all, pardon the pun, but it does gel together, doesn't it? Absolutely beautifully.
Would you agree? I said earlier on at the start when we talked about the Doctors, that although Troughton's brilliant, and don't get me wrong, he's playing a caricature of the second Doctor a little bit, do you think? So he's not, if you look at his tenure, he's not as overtly comic. He's got comic moments, but he's kind of really extremely jokey in the Three Doctors, I think.
He's having a bit of a laugh, maybe.
Yeah, which is it's great to watch. I love it. But I don't think
it's hard for me to say.
Of his era, but
it's hard for me to sort of respond to that because that was the first time I saw him, so that was
right.
And there's obviously there's so much missing of his original run that we've only got limited episodes. But
we've got more now though. But
yeah.
Yeah,
but, I don't know.
So if you look at the Web of Fear, for instance, he's not very comical. He's got comic moments in the Web of Fear, but nothing like this. You know,
maybe he had that ability to be able to, because this is a few years, obviously, since he's been in the role, but it's obviously still fresh in there, and maybe he's just. I know what you're saying, but I actually the fact that
it's weird though. In the 5 Doctors, he's more like he was in the 60s, I think. You know, which is bizarre.
Maybe he's reacting to the script.
Possibly,
maybe he's reacting to that lovely script, being able to say, "This is fun," and I'm winding that one up.
Yeah.
He also might be just trying to wind John Pertwee up a bit.
Yeah, I think
good for him if he was.
Yeah. Well, I also want to mention as well, being the big geek that I am, the TARDIS looked fantastic in this episode.
Yeah, didn't it?
I'm so pleased that they celebrated it by expanding it again and making it more like it had originally been and giving it that sense of space.
Well, look,
and I just think it looks amazing.
I had to fit
Although
7
I have to
people
say,
in
the
there.
Doctor's not built up his MFI wardrobes yet, has he, for Planet of the Daleks?
No, they're on the way.
They're on the way. They're still to be delivered from IKEA or something like that.
Yeah. But isn't it? It is brilliant. I just love this set. I mean, everything is in there really. If you look hard enough, it does. It's very reminiscent of how it would have been right at the beginning, 10 years before.
I love that when he says to Patrick Troughton, "Don't touch it. I wasn't going to."
I know. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? Those little. I mean, look at this shot.
Oh, not my recorder.
Yeah.
I'll buy you another one. I'll buy you 1,000 of them.
Yeah. The lines they just keep going, don't they? They just go, and it's amazing. I love the fact that Michael's able. I mean, I think we're all able to quote this story till we're blue in the face. Kirsty, if you continue being as sad as we are, you will still be able to quote these very, very soon. Garbage is making a wonderful point here. I can't think of anything that could have been improved. The acting, the script, the music, the story, everything was perfect. Round of applause for Garbage there, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That is fantastic.
I know where his score's going.
General Grievous is saying William Hartnell will always be. He is. You can't take that away. Time Lord 2023. Hello, nice to see you. Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart is brilliant. I love the scene with Sarah Jane in the Sarah Jane affair. Oh, that brought a tear to my eyes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That
Superb.
Oh, to see those two back together again. I mean, honestly, I was greeting. I was like, about like a big kid. Unbelievable. Simon's joined us as well. Nice to see you, Simon there. Richard is saying, I think he wore a blue shirt throughout. It would have been better for contrast in black and white. I've seen colour stills, though, of him, like the one on the bus and stuff, that Clayton researched and then recoloured, when they're doing the Abominable Snowman, and he's in the blue shirt there. So, yeah, I think it was blue all the way through.
It wasn't like Barbara's pink cardigan there.
Because the War Games action figure's white. That's why I asked. Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course. Bow ties are cool. Decades before.
Long before.
I love the safety pin. Always makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Controversially, boys, I actually was like, I could maybe see that maybe Matt Smith had taken some inspiration from Patrick Troughton.
I think he said he had.
Yeah.
With how serious it could be, but just the comedy and jokey snapping between both.
Yes.
But it was a nice balance.
Yes.
I was like, one of the stories apparently he watched for research was Tomb of the Cybermen.
Yeah, he has said that he watched. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say he said in an interview, Matt Smith, that he watched Tomb of the Cybermen, and that got him into Troughton, I think, and loved Troughton's performance.
I think he also managed to see 3 of the Doctors. I'm sure he said somewhere about he'd seen 3 Doctors as well. I don't know if that was when he was taking over or when he was preparing for Day, but I'm sure I might be getting confused.
That speaks to Matt Smith's professionalism as an actor, doesn't it? To
do some research,
do all that research.
Yes.
Yeah.
To do any research would be good. That's it. Yeah.
But in those days, though, there wasn't much research, was there? With them just being the 3 of them, they wouldn't have gone back and looked at each other then, because they just didn't do that. And I know Tom didn't do that either, because it wasn't the done thing that But it doesn't matter here, because you can see the difference between the characterizations in this, and it's just the thrill. What I was saying earlier, how did Omega know what was going on in Gallifrey? Richard is saying to me here, Omega was watching Runcible from The Deadly Assassin on his TV. Yeah.
That's a good point. Good point.
It's a very good point. Maybe he did tune into Gallifrey TV.
Runcible the Fatuous. Yeah.
You make the whole thing come alive.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. This. So what else we got here as well? We've got TARDIS Spider saying today Mr. Ollis would be on the daytime talk circuit making a fortune. I think he'd be locked up. Yeah,
there's a lovely. If you've not got it already, I know you don't. I don't know if you've got. Have you got season 10 on the standard edition yet?
I don't think that's out on the standard editions yet, is it? No.
Because there's a fantastic interview with Toby Haydock and Mr. and Mrs. Ollis.
No, I think it is. I think it is.
I can't remember.
Yeah. And it's
yes,
fantastic.
it is. Correct. I see it now.
It's lovely and heartwarming. Lovely couple. And apparently they knew each other before they worked together on the series, which is nice.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
doesn't surprise me.
Can we shout out to Toby Haydock? Actually, I do love his content. He's
oh,
terrific.
so do I. Yeah,
I think he's fantastic.
Yeah. We said on a previous stream that you should watch Moths Ate My Doctor Who Scarf, his Fringe show.
I saw that in Edinburgh. Yeah.
It's on an album, on a CD. It's fantastic stuff. Great stuff. Yeah.
Really good.
Richard's saying he's agreeing with me here about the TARDIS because I am a big TARDIS geek. I love the TARDIS, the TARDIS I grew up with. But you know what I mean. And he's saying it is a great set. It really, really is. Yeah. I mean, it shows that the original TARDIS wasn't grown for crying out loud. It was built by engineers on the planet Gallifrey. 7 and 11, says Vasco. Both looked to 2 for inspiration. The TARDIS interior looked great there. Yes, absolutely. What's Sam saying here? Just wait until Mr. Ollis finds out that Mrs. Ollis was married to Dr. Tyler.
Yeah.
Saucy.
Yeah, a shout out for Rex Robinson as well as Dr. Tyler, great actor.
And Pete quite rightly says that line there, "Where's my tea, woman?" would not be allowed to say.
Yeah.
I mean, that was sexist.
Get in the kitchen, woman.
That was sexist even at the time. I'm surprised they didn't say something about that.
Yeah, of course you wouldn't.
I think Mr. Ollis is related to Sam Seeley in Spearhead from Space. I think they're cousins.
But as a show about time travel, it's showing you life in the 70s. That's
exactly,
what like. So,
or the 1980s, wherever you want to be. So.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
We're getting no dodgy ground. Let's not do that. So, right, yeah. Recommendations for Kirsty. Richard is saying Time Lash. You are wicked. You are wicked.
Dimensions in time, Kirsty. Dimensions in time.
No, can we
Which is no canon.
You might, yeah.
Oh, shush.
Absolute canon.
Yeah. I just had to wind GT up.
I'll write a book on it. Curse of Peladon, the Time Warrior are good stories.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah.
And Richard is also saying to you, Kirst, Inferno.
Yes.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah,
that's a great
Actually,
one.
if I was to give you, Kirsty, my recommendation for if you haven't seen them, would be Inferno, Seeds of Doom, and Curse of Fenric, if I was to pick 3 that was sort of broad.
Duly noted.
There you go.
She's forgotten.
Have you seen Spearhead from
Space? What are you on about,
yet?
you silly old fool?
Have you seen Spearhead from Space yet? Oh, there we go.
No.
There we are.
Yeah, Sam is recommending it as well.
Yeah.
Kirsty's texting her friend saying, I'm stuck on this stream with these.
And Garbage is saying the Tomb of the Cybermen, Inferno, Remembrance, and Ark in Space. But do you know what? The brilliant thing about having Kirsty on this panel is she's going to spend a fortune because she gets a list from me of the stories that I'm saying, like, let's review these coming up. And she's going, I haven't got any of these. So thank goodness they are all on iPlayer now. So if you're new to this and you're watching and you want to join along with our reviews as we go into the new year, 2024, in case we're looking at this in the future, they're all on the iPlayer, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we've
so
got
it's cheaper buying a TV license.
We are hot tonight, aren't we? Get your scores in soon because we're going to come up to scores on the TARDIS doors from yourselves and the panel. But let's have a look at what mischief we're getting up to next week. Next on Who's Views Reviews. Well, it's going to be Christmas time on this channel, so we thought, why not? We're going to be looking at the first ever Doctor Who spin-off. We're going to be looking at K9 and Company. I can only really watch K9 and Company at Christmas as well. So that's our next one on the show, K9 and Company. So come back and join us for that. Go and have a look at it, everybody, and let's have a little bit of a Christmas do around that. I love that.
That's question, Kirsty, have you seen K9 and Company?
Negative. Shut up.
Yeah.
There we go. You have not seen it. Not. Yeah.
Oh, you are in for a treat. Sam's saying he loves that one. And Peter's saying, our Sarah Jane, absolutely. And TARDIS Spider is saying, send Kirsty copies of everything. Well, yeah.
Well, actually, Kirsty, as I replace the standard edition, the DVDs with the standard edition, you're welcome to some DVDs because I need shelf space. So, although probably cheap with the postage, it'd probably be cheaper just to get them over there somewhere.
Well, that's something that can get sorted. It's time for this. Oh, so it scores on the TARDIS doors. Out of 10, please. I'm going to start with Michael. What score are you giving the TARDIS? The Three Doctors?
10. This is one of my Desert Island discs.
Oh, that's nice to know, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. So 10 out of 10 from Michael. Kirsty.
10.
Oh,
wow.
Well done. 10 out of 10. I think that's brilliant. Well done. I'm really impressed you enjoyed that. And I think that's fantastic.
And the funds have just transferred, Kirsty. So
behave yourself. It's terrible. It's awful. Right. Okay. Everybody in the chat's getting their scores in now. Keep it coming. Paul.
It'll come of no surprise. I've been phrasing this story all night, and I'm with Michael and Kirsty. I give it 10. If I give it 11, if I could.
Well, you can't. I'm going to give it, of course, a 10. It's nothing. It's just sheer joy. And as I said at the top of the show, I watched it twice. Once because I watched it for a review, and then once because Garbage was watching it. And I thought, do you know what? I'm in the mood to watch it again. So I did, and I enjoyed it. And it was just pure entertainment. And I think that's what's missing from a lot of television today.
Well, that's the joy of classic. You can watch it again and again and get something new from it, which is lovely.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've proved that tonight on this very show with everybody that's been watching us. Thank you very much. It's great to see you all. Thank you for coming and joining in with this. And isn't it great, guys? It's nice to feel wanted. Garbage is... well, let's just face it. We're not these days. We're not, are we? They don't want us. We're all too... old or
problematic.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, don't start me off. We're talking about the Three Doctors, though.
Bite your tongue.
Right, the scores on the TARDIS doors from everybody, all the Who viewers. Garbage is giving a very rare 10 out of 10. We know what you mean. Sam is saying it's a 10, isn't it? Gary, hiya, Gary. Both target covers for this are classic artwork. And Kirsty, Watch the Hand of Fear, again written by Bob.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. This is Who perfection, isn't it? Just 50 years old and still getting us. Meddling Funk, 10 out of 10. I don't really know how to say this one, so I'll be very careful. Peter Harrington is saying 10 black holes out of 10. We're probably going to get cancelled.
Problematic again.
It's problematic. The General Grievous is saying I give it 10 out of 10 as well. The Three Doctors was great. Oh, fantastic. 10 out of 10 from Richard. The lovely Meddling Funk here, 10 out of 10 for tonight's show too. And Simon is saying, I'd say 10 too. I keep thinking I worked on it, but I only joined the BBC in 78, so I couldn't have done the 70s though, mate.
Simon, you need to come on. Tell us your stories.
Don't worry, I'm working on it. We've got, Phil. Oh, there is always one. Phil, my lovely friend Phil.
No pun intended.
He's saying 9 out of 10, and he's got a plane to catch up. You'll miss it. It's all right. We go back years. Bless you, JT. Well, it was your fault. I watched it the second time. You know that. Vasco, you cheat. 13 out of 10 because the 3 specials flop. You guys are so funny. I love it. I absolutely love it. You naughty Vasco. Yes, I'm a little spanky. Peter Harrington saying Strictly Come Doctrine 10. Garbage is also saying 2 hours story and it didn't feel like 2 hours. Oh, that's a brilliant point because those other ones we reviewed recently really did. I feel like but this, I mean, isn't it fantastic, everybody? You know, it's 50 years old. It's pure entertainment. There's a bloody good story in there and it's absolutely superb. Gary is also saying a gold standard 10. Thank you, Gary. And yes, Charlie Spider is also saying outside of Kirsty and maybe the General Grievous on the show tonight, most of us have seen this at least a dozen times.
Only a dozen.
I used to listen to my tape recording of it so often, just even before VHS was a thing in my house. I just listened to the audio cassette and loved it.
When we used to tape it off to telly.
That's what I did. Yeah, I used to listen to it all the time. I'd quote the doctor at school when I got bullied. I'd just pull out some doctor quotes. And then I got bullied some more.
Try and baffle them.
Yeah. I do remember. I do remember at school one incident. A Trial of a Time Lord had just come out, and the teacher had given the whole class a yelling. Yelled at them. You're all doing. I don't know what we were doing, but she said, "Do I make myself clear?" And I'd just seen Trial of a Time Lord, and I piped up with piercingly and irrefutably so.
Yes, the life and times of a Doctor Who fan. We can all relate to it, can't we?
Did you get the cane, Michael?
No. I think.
Oh, brilliant! Well, listen.
Trying to hide a giggle.
Don't mention
Doctor Who fan.
No, sorry, not that.
No, don't do that. Talking of Teddy, one of our youngest two viewers.
That was excellent, JT.
And yes, it was. So thank you everybody that's joined us in the stream tonight in the chat. It's lovely to see you all. Let's get ready for K9 and Company. I am on a mission to make sure we are all cheered up for Christmas on the at the end of this 60th anniversary year. Alleged. Yes, K9 and Company. We've also got our Christmas special coming up as well. So stay tuned for that. You're gonna love that one. You're gonna love the Christmas special. That's all I'm saying right now. But when you see the graphic for it, you'll know exactly.
Oh no.
You'll know exactly what we're going to be talking about. So you'll all love it. But anyway, so listen. Thank you to Michael. Thank you to Kirsty. Thank you for Paul. Absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad that we got there. That has had an overwhelming success for the Three Doctors. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us. It's great to see you, and we will be seeing you next time, as I say, here on the channel for K9 and Company. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.